Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining in this afternoon. I'm Pragati from Talkwalker, and I have with me Vanshika Mehta. We'll wait for about 2 or 3 minutes before we start, because it's possible that people might still be coming back from lunch or a meeting. And we have a very interesting session planned out for you guys today. So, really looking forward to that. Yeah. Can everybody hear and see my screen? You can just type in the chat box so we can, just to make sure. Thanks so much, Sagar and Abhishek, for confirming. All right, so I think maybe we can get started. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. The agenda of this webinar is to understand PR and influencer marketing in India relative to the world. Joining us today is Vanshika Mehta, PR and brand communications expert. She'll also be sharing her tips on LinkedIn personal branding. So the webinar will be approximately for 45 minutes, and then after that we'll have a Q&A. But during the webinar, if you have questions, don't hesitate to type them in the chat box on your right hand side so that we can get to it after. Hi Vanshi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Prakriti. Thanks for the beautiful intro. So, a little bit about me. I am a storyteller and a brand builder, and I'm currently in India. And I work with startups and emerging companies globally to communicate their messages to their target audience effectively. Really looking forward to this webinar. I think it's going to be great.
Awesome. Let's go right into it. So before we begin, I want to give you a quick intro to who we are. Talkwalker is a social media analytics company. We are based in Luxembourg. So we provide software to protect, measure, and promote your brand online. We have 6 different offices around the world. Not in India yet, but we're quite close. We're in Singapore. We have a variety of products to help measure your brand's digital footprint, ranging from our free tools, which absolutely anybody can use, and also Talkwalker Analytics, which is our legacy product, actually. So here's a closer look at the agenda for our webinar. First, we take a look at PR in India versus the global landscape. We'll introduce you to a survey that we at Talkwalker conducted, which had over 3,700 respondents, all from the PR and communications world, and share its top findings with you. Then we'll take a look at influencer marketing and the challenges associated with it. And finally, a sneak peek into the future of PR and influencer marketing. So hope you're excited. So let's get started. What actually does PR mean? So we took a look at the main themes associated with PR over the past 13 months using our tool. And the top themes associated with this topic are communications, business, and work. No surprises there, obviously. It's all about communicating correctly, and that's what the people in PR are experts at.
Yes. So digging into PR and what it looks like in India, it's very different than what it is probably globally because so India has a huge variety and diversity in terms of age and generation, which is why you've probably seen PR has a lot of importance. And specifically in India, there's a lot of opportunity to experiment and grow, and use different platforms to attract your target audience correctly. So I think India is a unique situation, but it offers a lot of opportunity for good PR cross platform.
Thanks so much for that, Vanchi. So I'll just like quickly cover the global perspective based on the survey findings. So according to global PR and comms professionals, here's what PR involves actually. So 77% feel that it's about social media management and campaigns as well as content marketing. 67% think influencer marketing is a part of PR, and 56% think it's also about link building and SEO. So if there's one conclusion that we had to draw from this, is that the lines between PR and marketing are getting blurred. Additionally, this industry is set to grow. Globally, the PR industry generated $16 billion in revenue in 2018, and it's about to grow more and more at about 5.3% every year. So we can already see that India is ahead of the curve here, looking at the number from the last slide where we have about 12% growth. So that's good news. So let's take a closer look at our report. So we conducted this report in association with YouGov, and there were about 3,700 respondents from 82 countries here. We've also enlisted about 100 plus findings in this report, and we cover actually some of them here in the session. So yeah, I hope you're excited, like I mentioned already. So PR is full of what we like to call gray areas, mostly with respect to measurement and analysis. The lines between PR and marketing are increasingly blurred, as I've mentioned before. More often than not, there isn't much of a distinction between PR agencies and marketing agencies. So to make sure that our survey is really accurate and robust, we only had to chat with PR and comms professionals in order to get their take on their daily jobs, actually, which would hopefully add more value to you guys or to whoever reads our report, actually. So what are the top findings, actually, from the survey? There are too many sources of data, first and foremost, and therefore no single source of truth for people to refer to and get insights at a glance from. So because data is in silos, sometimes it gets really, really hard to derive actionable insights from them, and that can be an issue. Also, time is a big factor in this case when you have to dig into multiple tools and do different things in order to just get maybe one or two insights. Secondly, PR isn't just about media relations as it used to be earlier. Most comms professionals think it's also about social media management, influencer marketing, and content marketing, as well as SEO. Then thirdly, our region, which is APAC region, and the Middle East, we face a slightly different challenge than the rest of the world. We need to use multiple tools so as to report accurate regional coverage, as well as to align with HQ guidelines. And that could also be because of the fact that there are so many languages. And that is a roadblock as well. Lastly, budget is the main factor that keeps PR professionals from learning more about new technology and software to make their work more efficient. So let's take a look at how India stands out. Something very interesting we found out from our survey is that globally, only 8% of C-levels use social listening tools. And whereas in India, this number is 25%, which is like more than 3% of the global average. And this is actually the highest for any country as per our survey. So that's something that's very unique to India. We also looked at the profiles of people using social listening tools, and we saw that social media managers are the biggest users of tools like this at 56%, followed by data analysts, and then research managers. But here too, C-levels are at 8% usage. So maybe Vanshi, can you shed some light into that? Why are C-levels so connected to social media and social listening tools in India?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, when C-levels get on social media and on channels where they can communicate directly with their audience, it really builds brand affinity and trust in that brand as well as the person. So, LinkedIn is, for example, a great platform for C-levels and E-levels to really, talk to their audience and give some sort of context to their story and what's happening inside the company. So I think, three things that you need to keep in mind really, if you are trying to do this and it is one of your goals, and it kind of does come under, like, say, PR or whatever, but it's just, if you're connecting, these are just three basic rules I think everybody should follow is, when you're putting out content, be relatable, be humble, talk like, you would be talking to your friend. And I think, you'll build your audience that way. Respect everybody's time. I mean, social media, there are so many channels nowadays, so everybody is very diverted attention. But share whatever's on your mind, but keep in mind that, like, not everybody might respond or react. So just keep that in mind when you're connecting with your audiences. And third, I think, just to wrap it up again, is to really share your story, bring some context into what is happening. Share new product builds, share, obviously a lot of times we see funding news, for example. Share highs and lows, and I think that will make you more human to the audiences that you are trying to connect with. And LinkedIn is a very strong platform, so definitely use it well and have a strategy behind whatever you do in regards to posting on LinkedIn.
Thanks so much for that. Really, really insightful, Vanshika. So now we move on to influencer marketing. So to start with, 67% of PR and comms professionals think that influencer marketing is related to PR. Specifically in Asia, this percentage is higher. So just for some examples, it's at 88% in Malaysia, and in India, it's 94.5%. So that's huge. North America is more or less aligned here with about 87% of respondents in both the US and Canada considering influencer marketing as a part of PR. But as you guys can see, India really considers influencer marketing a PR offering. It's a part of any PR firm's offerings today as well. So this is reflected in our surveys findings. Sorry, are reflected in reality. So that's definitely a part of PR. So let's look more closely at how PR professionals are working with influencers, right? So discounts and competitions are the most common collaborations, followed by attendance at events, and then affiliate marketing. So and after that, other popular collabs are social media takeovers and stunts or viral videos. So these are the main channels, let's say, for influencer and brand, or influencer and PR agency collabs. So some more numbers that are interesting. Let's look at influencer marketing, particularly in the APAC region. The largest category of influencers that PR pros interact with is the B2B kind, followed by consumer tech and then travel. So personally for me, this was a bit of a surprise, because I really assumed before the survey that we did, the largest category would be travel or B2C or fashion influencers, not B2B. So that's really a revelation. And then giveaways and competitions seem to be the most popular kind of initiative, followed by event attendance and affiliate marketing, which goes along kind of with the global trend that we already saw. Additionally, the main metrics used are potential reach, engagement, and CTR. So a bit sad to see that it's still all about vanity metrics. So potential reach and engagement are quite, they're quite broad. It's quite, like, the numbers look great, but not sure how useful it is. Click-through rates are something which are, it gives me hope that, things are moving forward in the right direction. So yeah. And then here's a closer look at how PR pros interact with both B2B and B2C influencers. For both types of influencers, Facebook seems to be the main channel, though LinkedIn usage in India is the highest in Asia at 83%. And so here's where I'll invite you again, Vanshi, to shed some light on the fact that why is LinkedIn such a huge platform in the Indian market.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I think the reason why it is so big in India is because it's first of all very organic, and competition is very stiff in India. So LinkedIn is generally one of the most suggested tools for C and E suite to actually share their views and like I said, talk their story. So LinkedIn, if you actually look at it, like every third person that I come across on my newsfeed is a founder or a CEO, and it could be anybody from like the biggest of companies to the smallest. And if you have a dream, I think LinkedIn is the first place you can go to validate or test your idea. There is no harm in that. Like it's 100% organic, and it'll get you some really good results really soon, which is why I think India is a very lucrative market for LinkedIn, and it's doing great things in this region.
So that's really interesting to hear, and mostly, like you mentioned many times, that it's an organic platform, so that's why it's super popular in India. So it's good to see that actually it's authenticity that stands out, and that's why India believes in the platform. So that's really good to see. Thanks so much for that, Vanshi. So moving on, the main challenge lies within measurement. So just so you guys understand, like get a better idea of what we found from the survey, only 52% of global marcoms professionals report on traditional media today, and only 38% report on influencer marketing. And in fact, around 61% of professionals in India feel that they don't even have the tools to measure influencer marketing and communication of KPI. KPIs seem to be a major roadblock, with only 30% of managers being confident about this. So it's a bit of a setback. Maybe Vanshi would like to add something.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think with influencer marketing, it is very common and is fairly straightforward to do. But, when it does come to, measuring your ROI, metrics do become a problem because sometimes the goals are not defined properly, or you're going on, like Prakriti said, some vanity metrics. And I think those, are sort of one and done kind of things. But if you are engaging in an influencer agreement, ideally you should attach yourself with their brand and vice versa, and it shouldn't be a one time one and done kind of a thing, because people like us, who is the audience, would definitely know if this is an influencer who say every day has a different brand on their feed or whatever. So I think you need to build that brand affinity and take influencer marketing as a very strong channel, but do it correctly with a very strong North Star metric before you begin.
Absolutely on the same page as you here, Vanshi, because like you said, it's really important to know the goal way beforehand, before you start a project. So, and that's like you call it North Star metric. That needs to be defined, and it's only then that you can define other KPIs and other things that will help take the project forward or determine its success. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so that brings us to the challenges for PR. So we've already identified measurement as a main challenge, but here are some other things that we should keep in mind. So usage of multiple tools is another major challenge, particularly for the Middle East and APAC. Like we've mentioned, regional coverage is one of the main reasons for this, and related to usage of multiple language and alignment with HQ. So that always is something that, I mean, in very simple terms, it means a lot of extra work for people in our regions. Like you can see that, the difference is quite big. Like when you see Latin America, for example, or when you compare to even Europe, both Northern and Southern Europe or North America, we are way ahead, in terms of the number of people that have said that they're using more than one tool. So that's a real challenge, especially because time is money, right? And that's something that's there. Secondly, choosing the right influencers, that can be another challenge. What do you say, Vanshi?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, like we talked about, a lot of influencers, if you ask them to collab, they'll probably show you, like, oh, I have these many followers, oh, I have that much of likes. And given that, we are in a state where, that whenever there's something new in the market, there's always a way to beat it. And a lot of influencers, have, been able to tweak their metrics positively. But, overall, that's not good for a business. So like like I said before also, like try and build a relationship with that influencer. Go deeper into analytics. Don't just go by number of followers, number of likes. Ask them about past experiences, and that will really show you the quality of their content, their engagement with the community, if the community even responds. If you have an influencer who's putting up all these great photos but is not able to convert according to your North Star metrics, say it could be sales, then that's not a fit for you. So be very careful, because it's not a cheap method to go with. So if you're investing time, you should definitely invest some time into figuring out how you can dig deeper into what the community looks like and all of the things we just talked about.
Sure. So yeah, I'll still hand the floor to you, Vanshi, on this.
Yeah, awesome. So then I think, the main question, like we keep talking about, is building that relationship, building that authenticity with, the people that you are engaged with, or people that are following you. I think first of all is that communication is a two-way street. Like, if you see an influencer, for example, who like, doesn't respond, doesn't even like comments, and is very like pushed away from it, take that as a red sign. Like on any platform, like if it's on LinkedIn also, if you see someone who's maybe not like interacting at all, like you'll see comments but you'll see zero comments back from their side, that's a green that's a red light from the get-go. A second thing, especially on LinkedIn, like everybody has top of the funnel information. So I think people who've made it this far, being an influencer or a voice on that channel, have made it because they actually dig deeper into concepts. So like, for example, like I'm in marketing. If you tell me like what is marketing, that 100 other people have done. But if you dig deeper into what is influencer marketing, how do you strategize behind it, I would like to follow that sort of a person. So offer more than just like top level information. Right as you speak, I think, is a rule of thumb that many of us forget. And even I have made that mistake in the past on LinkedIn. And I think if you talk too formally or too straight up, or even if you don't usually have a rude tone, like for example, like try and avoid it wherever you can. Just speak as if you're talking to a person or a friend in front of you. That makes the writing much more authentic, and even the words you use will come out better. Author your own post is, I think, the easiest way to build authenticity. There are content writers and communication strategists and people who are ready to write your LinkedIn post for you, or even on Instagram or whatever. So I think really just using your own voice, writing as you speak, and writing the post yourself will help you build that engagement. Because it's very obvious to tell when someone else has written a post for you, because it doesn't feel like it's you talking from that brand. And then I think another big facet of this whole engagement and influencer kind of stuff is to really step into your audience's shoes, understand what are their pain points, understand what they want to know about. If you just keep ranting on the fact that, like say marketing is going to be big in 2020, nobody's going to care. So like break it down, try and understand what information they are looking for, and be open to that two-way communication. I think that's really how you build authenticity.
Thanks so much for that, Vanshi. Very, very useful tips. So moving on to the next challenge, which is tracking and reporting, which we already talked about, but I would like to go a little bit more into detail. So reporting is a bit of a black box, right? For PR and influencer marketing, like we already talked about this, but it's a lot about vanity metrics. They sound great, of course. They're really, really impressive numbers when you look at something like potential reach or impressions. But how aligned is it with your North Star metrics, like Vanshi mentioned? So when we did the survey, we asked people what are the kind of metrics they report on, and the highest percentage reported that engagement is something that they look at. It's the most reported on metric as per the survey. Then there's reach, and then there's click-through rates or usage of unique discount codes. Now, engagement rate is tricky because you have a lot of tools that are telling you that, okay, engagement is high for this influencer. But I think that the most, the best way to go in is to look at the number of comments yourself. Look at the number of likes, comments, reshares that an influencer has got even before you select them. Like this goes again hand in hand with the fact that your goal, your aim should be defined well before the start of the campaign. So the engagement rate is tricky, but unless you go and verify and calculate this on your own, which can also be painstaking, but mostly it's worth it. Potential reach is something that, at least me personally, I do not like to focus on too much because it's not really real numbers. Potential reach is basically, okay, a lot of times it's like just calculated based on the number of followers that a person has. Now, we don't know how many of those followers are active. Then, like Manshi mentioned, there are a lot of, as per the study done by Vice last year, there are a lot of people with fake followers. So you can get potential reach of millions very, very easily, especially in a country like India. Does that actually measure the success of your campaign? Does that actually translate into marketing dollars, or does sorry, not marketing revenue dollars, does that translate into money? That's the question. And in my opinion, or let's say personal experience, it's not always the case. Um, the third metric is click-through rate or usage of discount codes. This is great because this is something that actually helps you evaluate the ROI of your collab or the ROI of your influencer marketing campaign, or in general your marketing campaign, right? How many people bought something that you would like for them to have bought, or how many people signed up for your newsletter. This could be something like, if you have the unique link, like a UTM track link, that's something that can really help you realize this. Also, again, it goes hand in hand with defining your goals. So it can be sales, it can be number of units sold, it can also be more newsletter signups, it can also even just be something as organic as follower growth for your own account. After which you can already start promoting to your own audience and require less, let's say, external help to do that. So that's a really good metric, and I think that's a really robust one. But in general, we see a trend for vanity metrics being more and more reported on, and that's probably not the best way to go forward. And also, like we've already, so these are things that are reported on, but it's only 38% of PR and marcoms professionals that report on influencer marketing analytics. So this only comes from about 38% of the people. So that's something we need to keep in mind. This needs to be done more and more. So yeah, here's a look at digital versus print. Maybe
so I like I mentioned earlier as well, like PR has a lot of different tools, and it really requires a strategy behind what tool you're using for what purpose. For some, maybe newspapers are a branding exercise, and you're trying to just attract, like say Bangalore's crowd. It could be that. If you're using digital, it could be specifically to target tech people in Bangalore, for example. So I think whatever your goal is, you need to tie it to the platform. And given the fact that India, like I said in the beginning as well, has a huge generational gap, has a lot of different age groups, a lot of different down to income groups. So you need to really think about where your audience lies, and where do you find them. And then I think the part that we've also kind of briefed over is that reporting is a lot of work for the agency or whoever is doing your PR. So ensure that you have a goal that can either be stretched across channels, or you can have a goal per channel. So for example, like if you're doing newspapers, you could be doing say a code. So that is one way to measure it. If you're doing online, say you're doing it on Instagram or whatever, that could probably be measured by your engagement rate or whatever metric you want. So I think deciding on the platform and the metric that you choose accordingly depends, it'll heavily lead into the success or the failure of your PR campaign.
Absolutely agree with that. And just want to add one thing about reporting and choosing the right tool, because not many tools are out there that gives you a happy blend of both digital and print. But maybe if you find a tool which is the best fit for your market, for your agency, that would be something that makes your life easier as well.
Yeah, so I know we've brushed over it a couple of times, and I really just wanted to kind of dig into it so that you understand, what we mean by the generational gap versus where they're accessing their information. So boomers are probably like your grandparents' age. They're not very tech friendly. They're still on Facebook, trying to connect with their friends and build that network. They're heavy, newspaper readers or television watchers. So say for example, if your product is something to do with say like walking sticks or dental kind of stuff, your campaign is more targeted towards those mediums. Gen X would be probably your parents. So they are very tech adept, they grew up with tech, so in terms of them being on digital, it's very easy for them. They're probably on a couple of platforms, not all. So for example, like if I had to think, my mom is probably on like Facebook but not Instagram. So they have their choices and their preferences based on what was there at their time. They do think Instagram is cool, but there are not that many parents of our gen who are on Instagram per se. So again, target your audience, target your messaging, target your communications properly so that you are talking to them. And then the third and the last one is like the millennials. We are the millennials. And for us it's like all platform goes. We're on every single platform. We're on Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I mean, you just name it and we have it on our phone because it's a fad. So we are on the tail end where we're just like, we have all the platforms and any and all work for us. But then again, PR comes into play because you can't have the same message on all the platforms. So I think, because I have a communications background as well, and this is about PR, I think it's very important to interlink the two so that on the platform you're talking to the right audience in the right manner. And then Gen Z is obviously the newest of the newest. So, they are probably one step even ahead of us, to be honest.
Absolutely, that sounds about right. I'm sure Gen Z is like you say a step ahead. So moving on to the next segment of our webinar is which is how should we kind of address these challenges, right? So the answer lies in research. A good amount of research should go into choosing the tool, which should have multiple sources of coverage and meet both your global and your local requirements. Like you need to find a tool where there's a happy marriage of both so that you are save time and you have it's time and it's so you're sorry it's so painstaking to do that, and that is something that can really help if you have done a good amount of research in choosing the tool. It should also be quite user friendly at the same time, meet the criteria of your organization and actually be useful. So it shouldn't be something that requires you to dig in for 45 minutes to get a really basic insight. It should be something that is easy to use for you, and should be something that people can be trained on very easily. Um, then the tool should focus less on vanity metrics and more on actionable insights. So this is the only way that once that you can prove that the tool is actually valuable, and this will help you justify the budget that is allotted for the tool. So that's something that we must really keep in mind. Lastly, but it's definitely not the least important point, tracking is essential. It's something that you have to do as a part of PR and comms, and this should not be ignored at any cost.
Yeah,
So,
some
yeah.
really good points over there, Pragati. Totally agree. Like, decide on your goal and then figure out how to measure it, and measure it cross-platform. I think are the three takeaways so far. Like we talked about just a couple of slides ago, like choose your platform correctly. And so I think I just found this really interesting graph which I wanted to really share. Is like what platforms are there. Some of them we might not even be aware of, but it's always good to keep a tab on what kind of platforms are emerging and and how you can gain audience and leverage on those. So I think, building an influence is about consistency. Nothing is going to happen overnight. You can't just buy followers because, like we said, you can, no one's stopping you. But, for a brand that really cares about their PR and the people that they're associating with, they will definitely be able to find out if it's like fake followers or not. And it's a common thing. Like a lot of people have done it, but you should definitely, dig into what the metrics are, and that will clearly tell you if there are fake followers or not. So as an influencer, just make sure you're consistent with your brand tone, your brand appeal. Like for example, like imagine a fashion influencer talking tomorrow about like tech products. Like obviously that is a very vague example, but very nitty gritty, like home cameras or something. Like it doesn't seem like a logical sort of integration. So build your brand, and whoever is your influencer, make sure that they're in your niche, or at least are talking to the kind of audience that would probably attract your product. Speak the language again. Like there are depending on whatever industry you are, there are definitely different kinds of language you can use. Like for example, like a fashion influencer might not be very formal, she might be very casual, or he might be very casual. But if you're thinking like B2B tech influencers, like they are very hardcore, in depth, probably have an engineering background or whatever they're talking about. So I think it's really important to, if you are an expert in your industry, or are planning to become one, or are aspiring to become one, definitely talk in that language, and build up your niche and your following based off that. And then I think the third thing, which a lot of people do, but it's very easily forgotten, is like say for example, you're on LinkedIn, and you're like head of marketing and comms of this really big company. It's really important that you use your voice and your page and your audience to influence good things. So for example, like keep upskilling, keep going to conferences, show them that you are just not stagnant, because I think you'd never know where your message can reach. And it's important to constantly keep inspiring whoever is following you. I think that is the goal, at least for me, and I mean, I really hope it is for other influencers as well.
Absolutely makes a lot of sense, Vanshi.
Yeah, so just to take it forward, I think another big part of any influencer, and we've talked about this, is community and audience, right? They're interchangeable terms. So, I think you should invest as much time as your audience is investing in you to build your community. So, go to events, be approachable, be friendly. I think it'll help build your brand. Like, for example, I'm a big advocate for being offline and online. I'll always try and go to every kind of event. Last week I was at a design event. I come from a Marcom background. Like I just, I'm curious to learn, and I do know some people in design. So, being present in the community, showing your face, also definitely helps build that authenticity. Talk to people within and outside your niche. So, for example, last weekend was a great example. Like I don't know design as much. Like I'm still learning and I'm still experimenting, but that doesn't stop me from being present or talking to people in that niche. You'll always learn something. Or say for example, if you're building a business, like you might find a business partner over there, and the fact that if you are an influencer in your domain, and you find someone over there, they would be more than happy to collab with you. So definitely step out of your comfort zone, turn offline into online. I think that is a big proponent of being authentic. And I think we've said this also a couple of times. It's like, don't think deliverable, think what can I do for my influencer, and what can my influencer do for me. That it's not just a take the money, put this post up, do this. Like it should really be more about celebrating these people who have a voice and are using it to help you spread your message, because that's at the end of the day what they are doing. So definitely build that relationship with them. And yeah, I mean, just I think using these tips would really help you if you want to become an influencer, or if you're collaborating. These are probably some things that you need to keep in check when you are trying to collab with an influencer.
Thanks so much for that, Vanshi. Very, very insightful and useful. Also for people like us who are looking actively to collaborate with influencers. So moving on to the future. So what does the future of PR look like? Oops, sorry, was that? Yeah. So what does the future of PR look like? First and foremost, the future of PR is about storytelling and cohesiveness. And actually, the best person again to comment on this is Vanshika. She's so good at both.
Yeah, so I would, I mean, I think you need to tell a cohesive story offline and online. You need to really build a story around your brand, and that should be communicated through PR. So, for example, if you really think of the story that your brand is trying to put out, that will help you even decide what kind of articles you want to post, be it online or offline. I'm not talking about the medium, but say, for example, if you are trying to portray your brand as like the best tech brand in XYZ country, then you would automatically look at your deliverables or wherever you're publishing in that aspect. And within PR there are always 100 opportunities to contribute, but you should really stick to your brand value and stick to what sticks to your brand story. And then definitely use techniques of storytelling to connect with your audience.
Thanks so much for that. Yeah, absolutely. So just going a bit deeper into this, influencer marketing has been on the rise for the last few years, right? And it's not showing any signs of slowing down. It's also growing closer and closer to PR as time goes by. So collaborating and understanding influencers is key, but the focus here should also shift, like when she mentioned, towards a long-lasting relationship and very, very good quality content. Another key point is that PR has moved beyond print. It's about digital, it's about ads, it's about being offline, everything. And so when you work on a PR strategy, it should be multi-pronged in approach. Your approach should be multi-pronged and not just focus on PR, like, in terms of media monitoring, which is something that, it's the age-old definition. So lastly, but not the least, is digital natives would be an asset in the PR domain since they're really familiar with digital marketing and digital channels. Um, and so to wrap it up, firstly, I'd like to thank Vanshi for her time. And then we can move on to questions, but quickly to wrap it up, the main takeaways from this webinar are there are several tools and sources of information for PR. It's important to find a common ground for these and unify them. PR and marketing are moving closer and closer and intersecting with one another to a greater degree as time flies. It's important to look at finding the right tool that provides both digital and print coverage. It's not easy, but there are some tools out there, and you can always find one that is best suited for your personal needs. Um, Lastly, personal branding is a big, big part of PR, and it cannot be ignored in today's day and age. So we'll open up for questions. You can type them in the chat box. I already see something from Ram Vignesh Chandran on our Q&A, on the Q&A feature. So he says he's handling branding and PR single-handedly for an e-commerce startup, and they don't actually have an agency for this because of budget constraints. And because of this, he's having a lot of challenges in terms of getting things published or pushed at a faster pace. And because of the fact that they don't have an agency and he doesn't have the right network, so he's asking what the suggestions would be in terms of methods and strategies that he should follow for best results. So Anshi, would you have any?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I would definitely like to chime in. So I think organic definitely wins. It's a long-term strategy. PR is PR is more like the wind beneath your wings. But at the end of the day, organic always wins. So I would heavily suggest invest in your social media channels, invest in good content on your blog, for example. Invest in doing events. So events is like not as expensive. I'm not even saying like host a conference, like host a meetup like every month for, say, marketeers in your area, whatever. That itself will get you a lot of recognition. Another thing, definitely, and like I've stressed, and I am very active on LinkedIn, and I've seen results. Just start writing content, share your ideas, share your thoughts, share how you're building, what you're building. Like I said, organic is going to win long long-term paid PR. There again, wind beneath your wings to take you to the next level. But if you invest heavily on organic, go with it, go into it with a mindset of a long-term strategy, and go into it knowing that you are trying to build a community around you and your brand.
Amazing. Sounds good. And then there's another one on what would be your advice for young startups on how to go about their PR strategies. I think we've covered most of it. Maybe just wanted to add with Vanshi over here that it's organic is long term, and it's really something that wins in the end. I would start even looking at, like, just from the survey results, we see that SEO is such a big part. SEO is free. So, it's something that young startups should look at. Like, you should look at maybe, investing in a tiny, the small basic package for a tool like SEMrush or Ahrefs. Or, you can even look at I think they also have a trial version. Just look at the best keywords for your industry, for your domain, and start with SEO, because that's where a lot of your traffic, a lot of your visibility will come from. And then, of course, there's link building, there's backlinking, there's a lot of things that can be done that goes hand in hand with PR. And of course, look at being as authentic as possible, because that's what people want to see.
Yeah, additionally, I would also chime in, like, over the last like year or maybe 2 years, like for example, podcast has gotten really big. Putting up a podcast is practically free. You just need your phone. Like, that's all you need. You need to just record whatever, the conversation is, and it's practically free. If you want to start doing YouTube videos based on your industry, again, very free. Any good quality phone will be able to record your video, and you build that thought leadership, you build brand, you build the community around you. And so I think if you're too early stage, I think be cautious of where all you are putting out your efforts, but definitely don't let that be a hindrance on where all you want to be. So for example, I'm not saying do podcast, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, like that is just too much and too much bandwidth for you to handle. What I would suggest instead is to pick one or two. Say for example, if you are into, say, e-commerce, for example, pick TikTok and then start with that, and then see what is happening, and what your results are, then go to the next platform. So don't waste time and resources on all the platforms in the beginning. Pick 1, 2, 3, and then judge, and then go back to your drawing board and see what you can change.
Thanks for that, Vanshi. So we have another question. I'm a marketing manager for an electrical equipment provider in Australia, and we have done LinkedIn, some AdWords and videos. But I'm guessing that they don't have a lot of results, because the Vinita, the person who's asking the question, she says that the main issue is the industry. And maybe can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think not everybody is in a cool industry as we'd like to think of it. There are some disruptive startups who are trying to break the mold of what we think traditionally of things. So for example, like we never used to have facilities like this before, which are now there. So it might not be a cool thing, but I think how you use your language and your communication says a big part about what you're trying to communicate. So for example, like there are so many great brands that do fun and quirky content, even though their product offering is very basic. So I'm in India, and there is a company that basically delivers like packages and stuff from point A to point B, and it's obviously faster than a FedEx and stuff. And their brand language is super fun, super quirky, super engaging, although their product offering is not that cool. It's basically like you give your package and they courier it across. So you know what I mean? Like I think you need to figure out what you can do to stand out. I think that is the main thing. If you're talking like everybody in your industry, that is obviously a rule of thumb, like do that. But if your goal is to stand out and build thought leadership, you might have to take a tangent and build on that, and that probably might work for you.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that, Vanshi. Hope that answers, Vinita. So we have another one. So it says, I'm working in pop communication. Do you think a course in digital marketing is essential, or is learning on the job and working along with your agency sufficient for the client?
So I think it really depends on what level of digital marketing you're working at, and by that I mean your ad spend versus what your goals are. So I'm a big advocate for anytime education and upskilling, and I would definitely do it. There are many free courses that you can take up. So if that is something that you're still trying to get a grasp on, and you're not like spending $50 billion on ad spend, I would suggest definitely do take those courses. You'll only learn, there's no harm at all. But if you are really trying to get a grasp and you want to be in this industry long term, it's important to be on the ground as well as have knowledge based on reading and studying. Again, another great place for this to find people to talk to is LinkedIn. I think, a lot of digital marketers are on LinkedIn. Follow them, talk to them, ask them what they did, ask them problems that they faced. I think it's, being prepared is always better than being sorry.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Do we have more questions? I don't see any new ones. So maybe we can wait around for a couple of minutes. But yeah, otherwise, really hoping that this webinar has added value and you see that there are some things you can take away from it and use in your daily life and your job.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. It is absolutely wonderful. I loved answering the questions and sharing, the little knowledge that I have. But yeah, we are going to be probably sending out the link, and that you should be able to find the report. I went through it, and I think it's a very insightful report that TalkWalker has done. So definitely go through it and see, what the learnings are, and then it'll help you be prepared for any kind of PR strategy that you're trying to implement.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with that, Vanshika, and thanks so much for being online and giving us your time today. And I'm glad that you like the report. We put some work into it, so I'm glad that you think it's useful. To answer our last question, somebody would like a recording. So yeah, we will actually have a recording for the webinar available on our website in the coming days. Also, we will send you the presentation, a PDF file right after. So maybe you will get that in your email tomorrow. So no worries about that. You will have all the content. You will have the recording that you can see at your own time. It will be on our website as well. So yeah. I see that there are no more questions. So I think for now we are good. Thank you so much everybody for tuning in, for your time today, and really happy to have had all of you and had the chance to share our thoughts. And thanks so much again, Manshi, for being a part of this webinar. I know it was a bit short notice, but thanks so much
Thanks.
for thanks so much for your time and for going all out. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Have
Thanks.
a good day.